Hello and welcome to the free webinar for finding surefire strategies to get your team motivated without losing your mind. I'm Kirsten Ross and I'm super excited that you're taking some time to be with me today. I am on a mission to defeat drama, and my guess is that if you're joining me today, you're experiencing some sort of drama in your workplace. Whether you're the business owner or a leader, a family business leader, a nonprofit, a for-profit, you will find information here that you'll be able to adapt, strategies you'll be able to implement immediately. You know, to me, drama is anything that shifts focus away from where it should be. And in your business, obviously, where you want your team focused is on your customers, your clients, whatever you call them, patients, and you need them aligned and doing what you need them to do to make your big mission happen. So what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to be helping you identify the kind of culture you have right now, what's going on in your team, some of the snafus that are happening. What does that tell you about what's going on inside the team? And then I'm going to give you 2 simple formulas to empower you as a leader and get your team motivated without losing your mind. Sound good? All right, let's go. So this is a picture of me. I'm in front of an audience. This was a year or so ago. I do a lot of speaking, and so this is just one of the times that I've shared some of this information. Over the course of the last over 20 years, I've shared this information with thousands of leaders, entrepreneurs, family business owners, nonprofits, for-profits, and human resource professionals from stages and also individually with clients for years. I've also been interviewed by NBC Nightly News, Entrepreneur Magazine, Fox Business, National Public Radio, and many more. I've shared this information over and over, and I'm super passionate about sharing it with you today. These are proven formulas that have stood the test of time. They work. These strategies are based on more than 20 years of experience working with leaders and teams. My bookaholic tendencies that keep me reading many, many books, things like the Oz Principle, the master's program at Michigan State that I went through years ago, and also my innate abilities to just know people and teams and the dynamics that are going on within those relationships. Obviously, there is a wealth of information that I could share, and I can't cover all of it today, though I'd love to. But what I do promise is to provide as much valuable information as I can in the limited time that we have together today. And then I'm going to make it super easy for you to work with me if you want to take the learning further. So whether you're a seasoned leader or new, there are strategies you can add to your repertoire that will enhance your ability to get your team to do what you need. If you're like most of my clients, you want to end the frustration and resentment that you feel towards a team that is not performing well. You've probably tried everything you can think of, but to date, nothing has worked. Nothing has gotten you the team that you need. It is time to stop losing your mind trying to get them to do what they must. It is so important to have a team that functions well, isn't it? In all the different team functions that I'll describe in a bit, there are negative consequences happening inside the business. If you have a malfunctioning team, you have a lot of drama. And the worst part is, not only do you know that there's drama going on, but your customers know too. And that's really not a good thing. They have a sense. And I'm going to tell a story. This is a personal story that illustrates what can happen when you've got drama going on inside of your business and what it might feel like to your customers and what they might do as a result. Now, like I said, this is a personal story, but it was, I now have teen boys, but when they were little, I opened up bank accounts for them. And I'm not going to say the name of the bank, but we had been members for a really long time. It was actually a credit union. And each year, they both had birthdays in the same month. And so this particular credit union had a birthday club. And so every year we would get birthday cards saying happy birthday, and it would give you an invitation to come into the branch. And over the years, it became part of our birthday tradition. Again, they both had the same month birthday, so it was really fun in the middle of the month to go in. And what they would do is they would have a fishbowl of fake coins, and when they would let them scoop those coins out and then count the money, and they would put that actual amount of money into their bank account. So it was super exciting for them, and they were always we always got a really warm welcome, and it was just a lot of fun. And when they were little, they would let them use both of their hands. And even though they were using two hands, it never amounted to more than $2 or $3 or so, but they really, really loved all the hype. And so a few years ago, they were still little and, I've got to say cute. I'm a mom, but I do really think they're cute. So we went in, and this time the experience was quite different than the experience we'd had every other year. So we walked in, and there were no other members in the branch at all. So we were the only customers. But, there was the red velvet rope and the sign that said, "Please wait to be called." So we stood there. And we stood there, and we stood there. And there were 2 tellers at one window and 3 tellers at another, and another random teller in another window. And there seemed to be employees all over the place, but no one was looking up and calling us over. So we continued to wait. Finally, one of the tellers looks up and begrudgingly says, "I'll help you over here." So my 2 cute little boys walked up and slid their postcards under that window and waited for the hoopla. But on that day, there would be none. She just looked at them and she said, "Hold on, I'll come around." Where was the happy birthday? The welcome to the branch? There was nothing. So she came out into the lobby with the fishbowl, and she performed the perfunctory task of having them scoop the coins, and then she counted the money out and put the money in their bank account. That was it. We were done. So as we exited the lobby and walked across to the door, one of my boys looked at me, and he said, "Mom, can we take all of our money out of this bank and put all of it into Flagstar Bank?" Now, I'll use that bank's name because I'm going to use them as a kind of positive experience. So what happened that day? Well, they did not feel welcome or appreciated. Even 2 little boys knew that they deserved better. Flagstar had inspired them to put their money there, which we had a small bank account there as well, because they welcomed them every time. They had sit down at a desk. When you would go to put your money in, you got to sit down at a desk. They knew their names. They remembered them at Halloween and, made little goodie bags. Hey, if I don't see the boys, make sure to get these to them. They had waters and cookies when they would go in, and it was a really big event. And they would congratulate them on putting money into the bank. So here they had an experience of getting free money at the credit union, and yet that wasn't enough. Now, do you think that was the intent of this postcard happy birthday project that they did every year, that they spent time and money on? Absolutely not. I'm sure the intent by the leaders who developed it and made sure it happened every year was to get those youngsters into the credit union in the hopes that when they were old enough, there would be car loans and mortgages and student loans and all of those kinds of things that make the branch money. But they goofed. Now, I mentioned my boys are cute. I really don't believe that it had anything to do with them that day. What I think happened, my hypothesis, while I don't know for sure, is that there was team drama going on. And that team drama, like I said, drama shifts focus from where it needs to be. And I think that the way that teller called us over that day, begrudgingly, she wasn't frustrated with my boys. She was frustrated with her coworkers. My guess is that 1 or 2 of those tellers, probably the assumption is, or the perception is, that they never wait on anyone. So I think there was a standoff going on, and I think the teller who called us over lost. So she was frustrated with her team. But that's what happens when team focus shifts to where it should not be. If you have drama going on amongst your team or a focus that is not aligned with your business objectives, some of your customers might be walking with their feet. And we did. I did actually respect their request, and I did pull their money out of that credit union. So no more happy birthday postcards, no more going in that month. No, that's no longer part of our tradition. So, but I agreed with them. It didn't feel right for them. And so I moved the money. And so I want you to stop and think, what kind of customer experience are your clients, customers, patients experiencing through your team? I know as a leader or business owner or an entrepreneur, you have a vision for the experience that they should have. But is your team aligned with that and providing it? Because you can't be everywhere and all things to all people. So there will be times, many times, where your team is the face of the business. And no business sets out to have bad customer service. I mean, no one says, hey, here's what we're going to do. Other than maybe like Ed DeBevick's, if you've been there in Chicago. I mean, that's the goal of that place. But other than that, if there's bad service, it's a glitch in the system. So stop and think for a minute what your own customer service experiences are. Years ago, I was at a chiropractic convention, and this poor chiropractor sat down with me, and he was so dejected. And he said, I hate my life. I hate my employees. I hate my patients. I'm just ready to throw in the towel. I can't take it anymore. I'm burned out. And my heart just broke for him because I knew that he had a passion for the work that he was doing, but all the other stuff was getting in the way. And as I learned more, it became obvious that all of his frustration resulted from his inability to get his team to do what he needed. He ended up working with me, and almost immediately he started experiencing positive change. He felt empowered, and within 3 months, his team was transformed. His passion was reignited, his team was doing what he needed them to do, and profits were up. He was enjoying his work again, and more importantly, he had family time again. So I already loved the work that I was doing, and was very passionate about removing drama, defeating the drama. But from that moment, I vowed to work with as many leaders, business owners, and entrepreneurs as possible. I don't want anyone to have to feel that way. And, I love being in family-owned businesses because, there's just extra stuff going on there. You've got the family dynamic too, and I love helping make sure that the dysfunction of the family doesn't impact the business and vice versa. You want to keep those family relationships intact. And I know that so many of you launched into the work that you do with such passion and hope. And time again, it's getting your team aligned that's creating the frustration. I know the passion for the work is still there. It might be a little buried. Many times I've helped clients turn things around with their teams very swiftly. There are small changes almost right away and full transformation in a matter of months. I love to see the passion ignite again and that hope renewed. And I'm really excited when I see them regaining their life balance. Time for that family again. So let's dive in and get you started. So, to just make it super simple, regardless of your business, you're making things happen with tools and equipment, materials, and people. That's it. So whether you're technologically driven, maybe you're mostly digital. So your tools and equipment are your server where you host your website or wherever you keep your huge email list, and your materials are probably more like what's written on your website or the content in your newsletters or your email lists or your podcasts. But regardless, you're using people to get it all done. Or maybe you're manufacturing, and so your tools and equipment are huge machines, and the materials are maybe steel and plastic and, adhesives and bolts and screws. And it takes people to make it all happen. And the goal always is to get all of those moving parts to work together seamlessly. I'm sure before you invest in any kind of equipment, you do some due diligence to make sure that equipment's going to work the way you need it to work, and you're going to pay attention to where you place it so that it works seamlessly with the rest of the equipment and the outcomes that you're trying to achieve. So if you have a fax machine and people, I don't know if a lot of us are having orders faxed to us anymore, but let's say you have 300 customer orders coming in a day into a fax machine and it keeps breaking down or it doesn't hold enough paper to accommodate that many orders. That becomes super inconvenient. You have to do something about it. It becomes a barrier to doing great work for your customers and causes constant frustration and inefficiency. If you make donuts, you need the right ingredients, good quality, enough of each ingredient. You need good mixing equipment and good ovens and the right glazes and sprinkles. You need good coffee to go with all of it and enough coffee makers and pots. And then you need bags and boxes and the stuff to put all your products in. And you need people. People to hand over the donuts, to count the donuts, to pour the coffee. And whether you are aware or not, your team of people has a culture. Your culture creates results. The results that your culture creates are creating the results you want or other results. So let me ask you, how do you measure success? Is it the number of phone calls that your sales team makes? Is it patient visits? Is it the number of accidents per month? Are you shooting for a 100% safety record? Is it your net profits or your gross revenues or the number of bids that you have per week or per month? Maybe it's your limited number of customer service issues. However you measure it, I want to ask, are you hitting your targets? And the thing is, if you're on this webinar, I'm assuming that you probably aren't. Your business isn't all that you want it to be. So your culture is your team machine. Really, your employees need to integrate with everything that you're up to in your business. And like any other machine, your team machine is going to work efficiently or it'll have a lot of malfunctions. And I'll tell you, malfunctioning teams are not inevitable, but they're common. 100% of my clients, when I first start working with them, begin by telling me what is unique about their business that makes the drama inevitable, or fighting between departments inevitable, or the inefficient processes inevitable, or confusion inevitable. And every time I say, let's wait and see, I said, that's never played out once, but we'll see. And I can tell you, not once have they been right. I've worked in all kinds of industries: healthcare, construction, financial services, wholesale distribution, logistics, nonprofits, professional services, sales organizations, service organizations, from 5 employees to thousands, profits, the for-profit to the nonprofit. And so many of the issues that I see that result in drama are consistent across industries and across company size. And ultimately, we almost always follow a very similar formula with similar fears, beliefs, and roadblocks to moving forward. Sure, there are different variables. No one company is going to be exactly the same as another, but we always follow a similar path to creating a team machine that works. I don't know if anyone here follows soccer. I know, recently we've gotten a little more soccer oriented in America, and maybe you're in another country. But a few years ago during the World Cup, France was supposed to dominate. They were supposed to win it all, and they ended up doing horribly. And what did we hear after? We heard that there was conflict. Their trainer quit right during the World Cup. The coach was screaming at everyone during halftime. Now, do you think that all of those world-class athletes forgot how to play soccer? Absolutely not. It was that the culture of that team did not support the mission of winning the World Cup. It was how they were working together. It had nothing to do with the individual skills of each team member. So you cannot discount how team dynamics and relationships going on inside your business impact your ultimate success. You have to have a functioning team. So do you or not? So here's some hints that your team machine is malfunctioning. So 1, your team is not resourceful. Challenges make them quit. So instead of being a solution seeker, which is what I like to try to create inside of my organizations I work with, everyone just says, oh, I couldn't do it, and they stop. Or maybe they go to you as the leader and they say, hey, I have a problem. Can you fix it? And maybe it's the tiniest little thing. Like, gosh, couldn't you have put any thought into that? There's little cooperation. So employees just don't want to work together. Maybe they fight. It's kind of like the credit union situation. There was no cooperation going there. They were all in a standoff to see who was going to have the drudgery of waiting on my cute little boys and wishing them a happy birthday. Leaders get dragged in often as employees require help to escalate issues. So if there's no trust and employees don't want to cooperate with each other, are they going to jump in even when it's a customer who needs assistance? Probably not. So leaders have to jump in and say, hey, so-and-so in your department needs to follow up on this. Oh, okay, I'll get so-and-so to do that. Instead of just the employees working together to make the right things happen. People warn others. That's not how we do things here. And what that is an employees are designing work instead of the leaders. So, hey, we don't work that fast here, or watch the amount of output, or, take some extra time on that, or don't put that there. They tell us to put that there, but that's not where we put it. So the employees end up designing the work. Employees don't trust each other to follow through. It's really difficult. You need your team members to be aligned. They need to be an extension of you as a leader. And if they're not trusting each other or following through well, you don't trust them. You don't trust your team, and neither do their fellow coworkers. So they're constantly having to do extra work and double check and ask a million times to make sure that some simple task is getting done. There's no open and honest communication. People don't say what they really think. This can lead to hidden snafus or mistakes. How about chaos and confusion? What are the priorities? Did that process change? How do we do this? Who told you that? I didn't hear that. There's no way to hold anyone accountable because no one knows who knows what. And there's no good stream of communication going through the organization. So no one knows what the priorities are. No one knows what the best, most efficient way is to do the work. Constant customer complaints. Like I said, when you're inside your organization and you have drama going on, you're frustrated as an employee of the organization or as the owner, but your customers know as well. They feel it. They know. If you think about your own customer service experiences, you know when there's something going on inside of an organization. That's not unique to me to go and say, ooh, something's going on here. I don't like the feel of this. We all do that. Your customers are doing that. They know. Employees feel that others are trying to make their job harder. You know what? When there's a lack of trust and processes are failing because no one knows the best way to do something or the most efficient way, then people have a tendency to assign negative assumptions to others. So instead of saying, oh, that must be a process falling apart, they say, my team is trying to make my job harder. And it just adds to the drama as everyone thinks that they're working harder than the next person. And there's just resentment and overwhelm builds up. A lot of chaos. So, that's actually in your handout. So stop and mark any of those that you're experiencing. I'm going to hazard a guess you have some of them. All right, now I'm going to move into talking about the 5 main team culture categories. For each one, I'm going to tell some stories. So either I'm going to tell a story of a previous client that I've had that illustrates the culture and what happens inside of that culture and what it sounds like and feels like to work inside of that culture. Or I might share some of my own personal customer service experiences. Because like I've said, your customers know what's going on inside of your business. And I'm a customer, and so are you. So as I describe these, it's really important to think about what it might feel like to the customer. So I'm going to use either one or both of those different kinds of illustrations to help you get a sense of each of these cultures. So we're going to start with precise power. So in this kind of organization, everyone, it's just like the picture illustrates. Everyone works in their little box and no one knows what anyone else does. There's not any real knowledge of the flow of work, and people are more interested in rules and actually saying no because that's how they get their power, than in taking great care of the customer. So I was working with a client and I was doing a cultural assessment. So I'll do that. I'll come in and meet with employees and I'll go through some questions and I'll get a sense of what's going on inside of the culture. And then I'll do a report of findings where I identify, here are the main issues that you have going on and here are the bulleted action steps that you need to take to fix them. And so while I was doing that cultural assessment and meeting with employees, I picked up on precise power. So what was happening is this was a very large multi-location organization. And, I don't want to give specifics, but there was a sales component and a service component. And in the service area, one of the people did a ton of complaining about a couple of the salespeople. And he said, oh, well, they just think that their stuff's way more important than anyone else's. And so I shut them down. I mean, I've got a lot of work to do myself, and they're not the most important thing. But as I dove deeper and asked for more details about what he meant, because, I wanted to see, is this an issue of the salespeople being pushy? Actually, what I uncovered is the salespeople had the relationships with the customers, and these customers were buying big ticket items. And it was very difficult to find these customers. So the salespeople wanted to maintain great relationships with their customers. And very often the service department was slow in responding to the customers when they had issues. So the customer having a relationship with the salesperson would go to them to say, hey, can you help me? Basically, they were saying, help me maneuver through the inner workings of your organization. I need to get this resolved. And a lot of times these issues were impacting the customers' businesses. So it was a huge, huge thing. And these issues did need to get resolved quickly. So really, when the salesperson was going to a service person to ask for a quick response for an issue, they were truly the face of a customer. And the reason they were trying to escalate the issue was because this was a customer who was already frustrated, had already been put to the side, had already waited too long to have their issue resolved. But because they had precise power, the service person was using his power to say, I'm not taking care of your issue, instead of focusing where it needed to be on working together as a team to address the issues of a customer who was already frustrated and disappointed. So that's one of the things that can happen when you have precise power. So here's what it looks like. They own their own job only. So I only know what I have to do. I don't know how it fits into the bigger picture. So they fail to see how the jobs fit together. So like this service department person, he didn't realize that really the request coming from the salesperson was truly a request from a customer who was already just disgruntled. There's no focus on business objectives. It's all about the rules and sticking to, this is my job. No, I will not move outside of my box. And some of you might see some similarities to your own business. How about rule-oriented? So it's just, no, I can't do that. I'll tell you, this is a personal customer issue that I had. So an experience that I had, that's another bank. I don't know why I keep having bank examples, but this is when my kids were really little. They were in car seats. I was a business owner. I was needing to make a deposit. So I was this particular bank kept saying like, oh, we appreciate our business banking customers. And well, they really didn't, because the individual employees had precise power. So I was trying to use the drive up ATM, and it was out of envelopes. So I then swung through the drive-through and I said, I don't have one of your drive-through pieces of paperwork. I had planned on using the envelope at the ATM. Can I just do my transaction here? And can you just send me one of your forms? And she told me, no, I needed to come into the branch. So she was unwilling to send me a deposit form. So then I said, well, can you send me an envelope for the ATM? And she said, no. So she was using her opportunity to have power over me by saying no, because it was the rules. I don't know if it was a rule for the bank. I doubt it, but it was her own personal rule that if you don't have the paperwork that you need to use the drive-through, or the ATM is out of envelopes, then you just need to come into the bank, whether that's convenient or not. Needless to say, I left that bank a long, long time ago. I have not been their customer for a very long time. Customer service doesn't matter. So in that situation, I mean, I told her that I had young children strapped in car seats, and I think one of my sons was even sick at the time, and nothing mattered. She was not willing to bend at all. They're condescending when others don't know the rules. I literally at that same bank at one point said, you know what? I was not born with the knowledge of how to fill out your paperwork. So if you could help me with that, it would be great. I mean, here they've been trained on it, but I as a customer was not. I went in one time for, I was getting a gift card, and this was back before you could get, all the different gift cards at CVS or Rite Aid or Walmart or Meijer's or just anywhere. So I was going to the bank to get a credit card gift card, and I had to fill out all this paperwork, and I wasn't sure, what all they needed on the form. So she was very condescending. Another, they enjoy adding red tape and saying no. So like telling me that I need to come into the branch. They gain power by creating roadblocks to customers and coworkers. And I think I've illustrated that already. And frustration, there's constant frustration between people and departments as everyone is just locked into their own little box. And ultimately, you cannot have a good flow of work if everyone only is concerned about their own little box. So it's just filled with red tape and bureaucracy, and very difficult to actually get any work done. What does it sound like? No, that's not part of my job. I have no idea what they do all day. I don't know anything about that. No, I can't do that. It goes against our policy. That is not how you do that. I don't handle that. You'll have to talk to them. That's the other thing. Have you ever called a call center where they'll say, you know what, I'm not able to handle that at all. I need to send you to this other department. And then you're in the queue in the other department. I'm not involved in that at all. They sit over there and try to make my job harder. So again, they don't understand processes across the organization. So they certainly, when there are snafus, they're going to blame it on their coworkers and not on a process that's not working well. So that's your first, precise power. The next one is perturbed and perfunctory. So in this kind of organization, just as the picture shows, no one's too concerned with their job. Really, they're just there to get a paycheck, watch the clock, get annoyed by the customers or the patients who are coming in, and just get done with the day as quickly as possible. Just make it through, kind of shuffle through their day. Low energy organization. And I'm sure we've all been in one as a customer, and I'm hoping that few of you work in one, because it's a difficult place to be, especially if you're the owner, the entrepreneur, and you're passionate about what you're trying to make happen. So I'm going to tell another story to illustrate, and this one is another client. So it was inside of a nonprofit, and they had a lot of drama going on, and a lot of negative feelings towards a project manager. So I was meeting with the whole team, trying to do some team building and dive into why they were having so much frustration. And so team members began complaining about the project manager, who was also in the meeting. And they kept saying, she just keeps asking us for information, or she asked for a report and then I have to give her all this stuff, or I write up all this stuff and then she says she needs more detail and I'm just sick of it. I've got enough other work to do. So this one's similar to the sales and service department because really what was happening is she was the face of large donors who wanted statistics and information about how their money was being used. They wanted to know specifics about how they were spending their time and the outcomes that the nonprofit was creating with that funding. And so a lot of times she would give the report to the donor and then they would say, you know what, I need a few more details here. So she'd have to go back to her team. So when she went back to her team, she wasn't going as the project manager who wanted more detail. She was the representative, the voice and the face of large donors who were going to cut their funding if they didn't hear what they wanted to hear or if they didn't get the reports on time. Now, why I put this example in the perturbed and perfunctory is as I dove in more, it became apparent that sometimes the donors did kind of wait last minute to ask for additional detail. And what I heard from the team members was, hey, it was the end of my day. You know I have stuff to do after, so I was out of there. I heard over and over examples of people not being willing to stay late. Now, I'm not saying that you want to design your workplace to always have people work overtime, but there are certain circumstances where emergencies may arise that are unavoidable, where people do need to stay and get the information done or get the extra work done. And everyone on this team seemed unwilling to do that. So what that told me is that this team was not fired up about the mission of the nonprofit. And in a nonprofit, that's especially concerning, because really you need in a nonprofit high energy people whose hearts are attached to the mission that you're up to. Because rarely is someone in there, making millions of dollars and there for the money. And you don't want people there for the money anyway, in any circumstance. You don't want them just there for a paycheck. So this was very concerning. Another example that I have of perturbed and perfunctory, the same bank. Wow, they gave me so much material years ago. I have to thank them for that at some point. But I was going to an event and I needed a lot of change. So like 1s and 5s and 10s. And so I was going to pull money out of my account there, my business account, and then have her give me all this change that I needed. So this is a fairly small branch. Actually, it was quite a distance for me to walk in from the parking lot and across the very large lobby and the empty area where there used to be lots of desks. But the teller area itself was very small. And so I think there were only 3 or 4 windows. And then they did have the safe area, but it was visible right from where I stood at the teller. So, a few steps away. And so I asked her, here's the change that I need. And she said, if you want this much change, I'm going to have to go over there to get it. And over there, she meant to the area, the safe area, again, which was maybe 5 to 10 steps away. And I said, okay, that would be great. And so to her, I was an inconvenience because I was making her step away from her window and go take care of me as a customer. And how does that feel? If this is your kind of culture in your business, that's the feel that your customers are getting, that you're in my way. I don't want to help you. So the team, what does it look like? The team works for a paycheck. Employees are clock watchers, so they're just like, oh my gosh, get me out of here. How many more minutes do I have left? Customers are seen as an imposition. They're a pain in the butt. They creatively avoid work. So, trying to talk your customer into getting the change that they need. In this day and age, it's too hard to try to go to a grocery store or something and get that much change. It's just not going to happen. They work slowly. It's all about doing as little as possible. And instead of using your creativity to be a solution seeker and get stuff done and use discretionary effort, it's all about working as slowly as possible and doing as little as possible, which, actually in my mind makes the day go even slower, but that is a strategy in some cultures. If it's the end of the day, it's the end of the day. No one is staying, or they're very, very bitter if they have to stay extra for some reason, and very low energy. There's no one there hyped up about the big outcomes that they're trying to make. What does it sound like? I'm on my lunch break right now. When is this day going to end? Another order just came in. That's going to have to wait until Monday. You'll have to handle that. I'm leaving. Get me my paycheck and get me out of here. And it sounds like ringing telephones and dinging bells as customers wait and wait and wait. All right, puzzled and perplexed. So in this kind of organization, everyone's just confused. What am I supposed to do? What's the priority for the day? No one told me anything about that new equipment. Where's that supposed to go? How are we supposed to use that? Constant questions. The entire day is just filled with unknowns and blank stares and I don't knows and I don't know where that would be. And I have no idea how to answer that. And so was supposed to do that, but I don't think they're here today. Does anyone know where she is? Confusion, chaos, constant. So I worked with a client. It was actually a doctor's office, a fairly large doctor's office. And they had this kind of culture. What was happening there was they would have team meetings where they would share a lot of the main information, any changes that were going on in processes. If they were getting new equipment, they would talk about the new equipment, say where the new equipment was going to be housed. They would get trained on how to use the new equipment, any new laws, regulations, legislation, all of that was shared in the team meetings. However, the team meetings were not well attended, and they weren't really good at tracking who was at the meeting and who wasn't. As a result, it was really difficult, one, because people didn't know. If they missed the meeting, they missed all the information that was shared in the meeting. And two, it was hard to hold anyone accountable because all they would say is, oh, well, I missed the meeting. And they didn't know if the person actually missed the meeting or not because they weren't keeping track of who was there. So the end result was confusion, inefficiency, lack of productivity, and no accountability. I'll give you a little hint, though. That one was a super easy tweak, and it was all about good meeting notes, setting requirements for how long people who missed the meeting had to own the information in the meeting notes. But I digress. So what does this puzzled and perplexed look like? It's confusion, uncertainty. Like I said, it's difficult to hold people accountable. They say that they don't know, and you have no idea whether they do or not. Objectives change constantly. People don't care about mistakes. They just know, hey, it's not my fault. They don't even waste time trying to find blame. Now, in some of the other cultures, it's all about finger pointing instead of fixing the problem. But in this culture, it's just like, hey, I didn't know what was going on. You can't tell me. Now, I've got a personal customer service story around this one. So I was at one of those large department stores, let's call it, that also has a service center for cars. And I needed 2 new front tires for my van. So I arrived very early in the morning. My husband took me, and there were no other cars in the bay. So that becomes kind of important in a little minute here. So no other cars were there, but it was early, so I thought maybe just other people hadn't arrived yet. So one of the employees comes out to greet me, and he says, ask what I need, and I let him know. I said, hey, can you put I think it was the 2 front tires to the back, and then I just need 2 new front tires. And I said, just put the same kind on that's already on there. Pretty simple. So he took my information, he took my cell phone number and all of that, and then he said, it'll be about 45 minutes. And I said, great. Well, before we were even out the door, I looked and they already had my van up, on the hoist, and all 4 tires were off. So I kind of called over to him and I said, how long will it be? Is it going to be less than 45 minutes? And he said, no, it'll still be about 45 minutes. So I said, okay. Because I thought if it was going to be less, it seemed like they were really going quickly and there were no other cars, I would just wait. But he said it's still going to be about 45 minutes. So I thought, great. And I left. I went on about my day. I did some coaching. I saw some clients. And about 7 hours later or so, my husband brings me back. And I will say that there were still no cars in the parking lot or in the bays, which was a little interesting. And there sat my van. And I stopped and looked. And I thought, those do not look like new tires. What is going on? Well, the man who had greeted me in the morning walks out and meets me in the parking lot. And he said, blah, 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 something about the stem where you put the air. I'm not a car person, but there was something where he said there was some corrosion. And so we weren't able to perform the work because that would be liability on us. And we would have needed your approval to do the work. And I said, well, why am I just hearing about this now? And he said, I said, why didn't you call me? And he said, well, we're not allowed to call customers. And this was very puzzling to me because as far as I knew, one, he had asked for my cell phone. And 2, that seems like pretty standard protocol these days. There's a way, shape, or form to get a hold of people in this day and age. And so for me to not get any kind of contact about this was very interesting. And I said, well, that doesn't really sound right to me. I think I need to see a manager. At that point, another employee who wasn't there earlier in the day walked out. And he said, I just got here. I don't know what's going on. I only got here at 10. Well, this was like about 3 in the afternoon. So he'd been there for hours with my van sitting out in the parking lot and doing nothing. So I just said, yeah, I just need to talk to a manager. Something's not right. And then they told me that the manager of their department had already left for the day. And he was the one who said, oh, you can't work on that because of the corrosion. And so I said again, yeah, I don't need to talk to anyone in this department. I want to talk to the manager of this whole place. So, I mean, it has a good ending because that manager of the store thought that something had gone awry as well. I actually got a new tire out of it. But I truly believe that what was going on was this was a puzzled and perplexed group. Everyone was confused and they were looking to avoid some work. So it was an interesting time. And I think the guy who ended up greeting me that morning actually quit his job that day while I was there because then they were having to do the work. So anyway, there's my puzzled and perplexed. No one seemed to know what was going on. There really wasn't even anyone blaming anyone else. It was just kind of like, well, I just got here. I don't know what's going on. So that's what it feels like as a customer. So what does it sound like? I didn't know. No one told me. So that's what everyone was telling me out in the parking lot in this particular instance. Who said that was important? That's not what we're supposed to do today. I didn't hear anything about that. What's going on with this equipment? Why is this here? How am I supposed to know? You can't write me up for that. No one ever told me that wasn't allowed. Have you ever heard that? That can be really frustrating as a leader to feel like you're not empowered to even follow through on correction. All right. Petrified and panicky. So I've worked in a few of these organizations as well, and these are tough. This is that duck and cover. Everyone's walking on eggshells. Generally, there's some amount of anger and stress going on inside the organization that's causing people to just live in fear. They think they're going to be fired at any moment, or they're going to be in trouble or yelled at. Not a good environment at all to work in. Everyone's going to be playing it small, just doing their own job. So this is a little bit like precise power, but on top of it, you have all this fear. And in this one, this is definitely the finger pointing because you don't want the finger pointing at you. So you're trying to point it at everyone else. And okay, so the client that I worked with years ago was a logistics company. They were a large logistics company and they kept losing people out of one of their departments. And we're talking people walked off the job with no other job prospect, just walked off last minute. That's usually some indication that there's something going awry inside of that team. So they brought me in to help with that team. And one of the things they asked me to do was talk to a couple of the people who had left without notice. So while I was working with the team, the people who'd been there for years and years and years about these new employees who didn't make it, they would tell me, oh, we were doing everything to help them. We answered all their questions. I don't know what happened. So then I called the employees who left and they said, oh yeah, they would answer our questions, but they would say, oh my God, and then answer the question. And they could also hear, they were all in cubicles and they could hear their coworkers talking about them over the cubicles. I'm so sick of all of her questions. Man, can't she get it right yet? She seems so stupid. So ultimately they got so stressed that they couldn't take it and they would just leave. And they were so afraid to ask questions, they were never going to learn the job. Another quick example from another client, an employee, kind of same environment, duck and cover, everyone's afraid. And what happened here is that one of their employees suddenly went out on a stress leave and no one even knew that she was having stress. She had never talked about being stressed. Well, once she left, some of her coworkers went to her desk to try to, they needed to cover her work. Well, what they found was tens of thousands of dollars of unbilled invoices. And what was happening was the reason she was in stress was it was such a scary environment. She didn't know the answers. She was feeling overwhelmed, but it was an environment where she didn't feel comfortable going to her boss or even a coworker and saying, I need help, or I don't understand this, or I have too much work. And so instead of going and getting help, she hid it. And so over time, the stress and the burden of not being able to do her job and knowing that she was falling farther and farther behind took her out onto a leave and left the company to fix and finish up and take care of all the problems that were left behind. So what does the petrified and panicky look like? Duck and cover. Everyone wants to be invisible. Everyone's afraid to share ideas. Employees do exactly as they're told and no more. There's emphasis is on blame and finger pointing rather than fixing problems. And the best thing is just to sweep those problems under the rug and hope that no one notices, like this woman did who ultimately left on a stress leave. Her body couldn't take the stress anymore of all that she was hiding mistakes and incomplete work and customer complaints. They're afraid to ask questions. They're walking on eggshells. Employees are in survival mode and they're afraid to go above and beyond for a customer. So there's no way to do anything extra. What does it sound like and what does it feel like? I didn't do that. I'd love to help you with that, but I might get in trouble. Don't say anything. The supervisor will never find out anyway. It doesn't make sense, but I'm just doing exactly as I was told. I know it's messed up, but I'm not going to tell the boss. Silence as people hide mistakes and fail to ask questions. So, I hope that's not your organization. All right, the last one, this is the gold standard. This is the organization that you're trying to create if you don't have it already, and that's proactive and propelled. So this is that culture of accountability where people are using their discretionary effort. They're saying, we can help and we've got your back, and they're working together as a team. And they're able to provide great customer service, and it feels good to be there. There's high energy. And I'll tell you, I was just recently got to be with a very large nonprofit. They hired me to do some training, and it was a nonprofit. It was kind of a little different scenario. So I didn't know a lot about their team or what their issues were. I kind of was hired by a second party to come in. And so I didn't know what to expect. I only knew that they'd been in training all day and that I was speaking right after lunch. So I thought, oh gosh, let's see how this goes. Well, I got there, and now I'm going to bring some energy, but is my audience going to bring energy? Well, I got there, they were finishing up their lunch, and they were the highest energy group. It was awesome. And then I found out they'd actually been in 2 weeks of training. This was a Friday, so this was the last day of 2 weeks of training after lunch. Can you imagine? And they were still high energy. That's what you want out of your team. They were still interested in learning and just doing all that they could do to do the best work that they could do as they went back to their jobs after this 2 weeks of training. And I will tell you that my clients who work with me and follow the steps that I prescribe create this kind of culture that is proactive and propelled. They work well together, they meet objectives, and they take initiative. And so, if you're in an organization where you have some of those other kinds of cultures and you're frustrated with it, I encourage you. It is possible to shift to this kind of culture, and it doesn't always take all that long. So if you're the owner or the entrepreneur, the family business owner who started the business, and you have the power to make a change, you can do it. But I want to tell you that even if you're in a larger organization and maybe over just one department, there's still an impact that you can make. I once worked inside of a large sales organization, and one of their biggest producers had me come in and just work with his team. And as we worked together and figured out what was in his control and where he could reshape how his team did their work, the rest of the organization started saying, wow, you guys are working differently. You're more efficient. You're more effective. We want what you have. And so they started seeing the dramatic difference between how his team was functioning and how the rest of the organization was functioning. I want to share this is another personal customer service story of a time when I, thank God, got the proactive and propelled culture. So I was calling into a call center. I actually had my identity stolen a few years ago, and what a pain. If you've been through that, you know that it's grueling. You have research to do and paperwork to fill out, and it's terrible. So I actually found out that they had already opened up an account in an online store and had ordered some items under my name, but of course I didn't have the account number, and they were already being shipped. So I needed to try to, stop this and get the items shipped back and get that account closed down. So I kept trying to call their 1-800 number, but it kept asking if you wanted to talk to somebody, you had to type in your account number. So that was difficult because obviously I don't have the account number. I hadn't even opened up the account myself. So I ended up finally though getting to talk to a person, and you just never know what you're going to get when you call a call center. And I was just hoping and praying that I got that hero, that person who was going to take on my fight for me. And thank God I did that day. So this woman, I explained my situation. I said, my identity's been stolen. I know that they've opened an account and they've already started using it and ordering some stuff. And, I need the account closed. I want the stuff shipped back. How can you help me? And what she told me was great. She was honest and she said, 1, I'm so sorry this is happening. Thank you. She showed some empathy. And 2, she said, I honestly have no idea how to handle this. This is the first time I've taken a call like this, but I am going to figure this out. So she made the promise and the commitment to me to stick with me through the end. So she said, here's my callback number if I lose you. But I'm going to put you on hold and I'm going to call around. I'm going to find the right place to send you. And so it was great. She ended up finding they had a fraud department that she wasn't aware of. And so I got to talk to them and they handled everything. So it just feels so good. Again, as a customer, the feeling that you get when you're in that right culture that's aligned with creating great outcomes. So what does proactive and propelled feel like and look like? Team focuses on business objectives. So her focus was, I'm going to provide great service. I don't even know how to do it yet, but I'm going to just be a champion of her issue. Employees take initiative. She absolutely took initiative. She could have totally said, I have no idea, and hung up on me. But she didn't. They give great customer service. They use discretionary efforts. That's going above and beyond. It's beyond what is minimally required. You just do what it takes or what's within your control, or you figure stuff out. They understand the roles and how they fit together. They have autonomy. This is important, and it's a key element of what you need in your organization to have a proactive and propelled organization. They celebrate successes and milestones. They focus on fixing problems. So it's not about blame. It's about fixing problems. And it's very high energy. So if you've ever been to an Apple or a Buckle or done any business with Zappos online, those are organizations that do it right. They teach their team, the team members have autonomy and they take discretionary effort. They're excited about the products they're selling and they go above and beyond to try to help you as much as they possibly can. And those cultures don't happen by accident. They have to be created with intention. So what does it sound like? It sounds wonderful. So it's, sure, I can help you with that. Is there anything else I can do to assist you today? I'd love to work on that project with you. I have an idea. I'd love to learn more about that. I can take care of that for you right away. Let me find out and get back to you. I'm sorry, that was my fault. I will fix it and improve the process. So wouldn't that be awesome? So if this is not you, this is what you're shooting for. And it is possible. I'm here to tell you. So just quickly on your action guide that you got in the email, if you've got that in front of you, just kind of mark and make some notes. What kind of culture do you have now? You might have a combination, but which one is yours now? And then the big question is, are you ready for change? How frustrated are you at this point? How much pain are you in around every day going and hiding from the drama that's happening or dealing with way too many customer service issues that just shouldn't be happening? Well, here's the good news, and I hope that you see it as good news. Leaders make the difference. If you are the leader in the organization, or even if it's in just your department, you have the power to create the right culture, to create a culture that is aligned with what you're up to in your business. You can create that propelled and proactive culture if that's what you need. So, is this good news or bad news? So sometimes people say, well, I'm not taking responsibility for the culture that we have. No, I can't fix it. So this isn't about blame. I don't want you to feel blamed. I'm not saying if you have one of the cultures that doesn't work well, that you're to blame for creating it. What I'm telling you though, is you do have the power to make a positive impact. So that's the good news. So how is a culture formed? In the Oz principle, they talk about this. So how a culture is formed, and I love it. It is broken down so simply. So as a leader, moment to moment, day to day, you are creating experiences for your team. Those experiences create beliefs. The beliefs create team actions, and the team actions, how they act day in and day out inside of your business, moment to moment, create the results that you achieve in your business. And remember, it's either results you want or different results. So let me give you an illustration. So the experiences. Well, and let me stop and say, so when I say moment to moment, what you ignore, what you focus on, what you celebrate, what you get angry about, what you get excited about, what you tell them to focus on, what you say are the priorities of the day, all of those things create the experiences throughout the day. So you might be one of those organizations that has a quarterly or an annual big meeting where you do the rah-rah, here's our priorities and here's who we are and here's our core values. But if day to day the experiences that your team has with you or other leaders are not aligned with that rah-rah meeting that they had about your core values, it's not the rah-rah meeting with the core values that wins. It's the day-to-day experiences that you're creating. So you as a leader need to be intentional about the experiences that you're creating for your team. So let me give you an example. So let's say you're in a team meeting and one of your employees raises their hand and says, I have a great idea. I know how we can save $700 a month. Your response to that statement is going to create beliefs in not only that employee, but everyone else in the meeting. So if you say, that's awesome, thank you so much, we are all about saving money, let's hear it. If anyone else has ideas, make sure to let me know. We're all about efficiency and saving money here. Their belief is, my boss likes me to think outside the box and be creative and save money and be efficient, right? And then their actions are going to be aligned with that belief. And the results are going to be that you're an organization where people are solution seekers and come up with ideas and are creative and save money wherever they can. If instead the response is, that's not any of your concern, you just focus on your job, now you're creating the in-the-box person who's going to just do their job and not think about anything beyond. So that precise power, they're sitting in their box and they're like, I'm just doing exactly what I'm told. Forget about it. That's the belief of everyone in there. I will also say that negative experiences travel farther and last longer, and that you can, if you're the same leader and you're going to lead the same way, you can replace your entire team and it'll be replaced with the same culture. So, again, I'm going to say this can be good news to you or bad news. I'm hoping that you feel empowered by this because truly you have the opportunity to have a positive impact on your team. There's a certain formula to follow, but you can do it. How you get unintended outcomes. If the experiences that you're creating for your team are not aligned with how you actually want to run your business, you're getting unintended outcomes. So let me give you a couple of examples. So let's say you have an employee who makes a mistake. The experience that you create for that employee who comes to you and tells you that you made a mistake will create a belief. The belief will create the actions and the actions will create the outcome. So if employees come to you and say, I made a mistake, and they get yelled at and blamed and in trouble, instead of, hey, let's fix this, let's see how we make sure this doesn't happen in the future, and a positive response. So the employee who makes the mistake and gets yelled at, what's their belief? I just need to hide my mistakes. I just need to duck and cover. I don't go for help from my boss because he or she doesn't help me. So that's an unintended outcome because over time now you have a team of people who believe that it's not good to own up to mistakes. Their actions are that they hide mistakes. So overall in your business, you've got growing mistakes. You don't have process improvement. People aren't working to do their work more effectively. Okay? Here's another example of an unintended outcome. Let's say you have two employees who don't get along. And your response is, the experience that you create is to make sure that they don't have to work together. So you do everything in your power and the whole team ends up having to accommodate two people who don't want to get along. Well, now the belief is it's okay to not get along. You don't have to work through your frustrations with your coworkers. Go to your boss and they'll fix it for you. So over time, you might end up with multiple people who aren't getting along who want to be accommodated versus the experience of, let me facilitate a conversation with the two of you. The truth is that you don't have to like each other, but you do have to respect each other and you do have to work together if you're both going to continue working here. I want you to both work here. Okay, starting to get it? A team or individual doesn't get their work done. So an unintended outcome would be that their experience is that their boss just steps in and does the work and then delegates even less work when they don't get it done. So now their belief is that it's okay to not get your work done. The boss will just fix it anyway. The actions are and that they do less and less work, or they do incomplete work, or they're not very precise with their work. And the result is not great work. And you as the leader are overwhelmed and resentful and end up feeling that feeling of resignation of, if I want it done right, I just need to do it myself. So the process that I just went through is that you look at the mission and vision, the measurable results. So what is it that you're trying to accomplish? What are their actions? So you kind of go backwards through that list that I gave you. What are the actions required to get our measurable results? What behaviors required to get those actions? What are the beliefs that get the behaviors and the actions that I need? And what experiences do I have to create as a leader to create those beliefs that will give me those behaviors and actions to get me my results? So here's some examples. So generating aligned actions. So instead of unintended outcomes where you're not thinking about the fact that the experiences you're creating are creating unintended outcomes, instead generate aligned actions. So let's say that you have a measurable of the number of customer or patient visits per week. So what's an action? Inviting people back, being friendly when they come in, making sure to get them scheduled for future appointments when they're in, using targeted social media posts, remembering people's names, helping them feel appreciated, all those kinds of things. What's the behavior? The behaviors are friendly and inviting and welcoming and goal-oriented, right? Customer service-oriented. What are the beliefs that create those actions and behaviors? A warm, inviting personality is appreciated. Marketing activities are rewarded. And when I say rewarded, I don't necessarily mean monetarily, but with a thank you or a show of appreciation or an email or a high five. Great job. What are the experiences that you as a leader have to create so that the belief is that that's what's desirable in the organization? The experiences, thank yous and group acknowledgments and reviewing stats and saying this is what's important, or maybe doing a little, making a game of how many customer or patient visits you have per week, or eliciting feedback or brainstorming marketing ideas together in your meetings. So see how day to day, moment to moment, you need to create experiences that are aligned with the actions and behaviors that you need from your team that will lead to the outcomes in your business. Safety record, same thing. So how do you get a 100% safety record? While the actions and behaviors are that you need your team to follow procedures, be proactive, be solution seekers, stop production to fix something or alert a supervisor rather than muscling through if there's a hazard. You need them to think of others and take initiative. What are the beliefs? They need to believe that safety is more important to you as their leader than profits or productivity. If instead the experience you've created for them is yelling at them if they stop production or slow things down if there's a hazard, now their belief is that we need to muscle through. So you need to create experiences that show them that by thanking employees for even if productivity is suffering, but your safety record's good, and then bring them together to say, how can we improve our safety but still meet our productivity? Or how can we stop that hazard from happening again? So it's implementing and reviewing reports and showing gratitude and acknowledging initiative. Deadlines met. So same thing. Do you want to just take over all the work, or do you want to find a way to create an experience that says, no, you need to get your work done? Here's a way to create an experience. This is the 6 simple steps of great delegation, an experience that ignites the action that gets your team to do what you need them to do. And I have, like I said, both of these strategies I've been sharing for years, but this is a formula for the 6 simple steps of great delegation. Too many of my leaders tell me, I just need to do it myself if I want it done right. They're just resigned to that belief. And I tell them, no, let's just look at your delegation process, and a simple tweak almost always transforms it dramatically. So I'm going to go over these 6 simple steps, and my guess is you will be missing at least one of them, and it will transform the way your team responds when you delegate work. And this is how to create the experience that ignites. It is important for me to get my deadlines done instead of my boss will just pick up the slack if I don't. All right. So the first one is what. So you're going to be very specific about what needs to be done. How many reports need to be completed? How many widgets need to be put together? How many phone calls need to be completed? What needs to happen with the list? So whatever it is, be specific about what needs to be done. The second one is who. You will delegate to one person. And now it might not be one person works on it, but one person's going to be your main contact and your main person responsible for making sure that it gets done. So if you're a, executive director, you probably have managers or directors below you. You'll delegate to them. They'll get their team to work on it, but that's your one point of contact and the one person who's ultimately responsible. What you don't want to do is be like the bride who throws her bouquet and says, hey, can someone do this? And you turn your back and chuck the bouquet and hope that somebody grabs it. I see that a lot. They'll say it in a meeting. Hey, you guys, make sure this gets done. But everyone's just looking around to the other person, thinking, well, they're going to do it. I don't need to step in. So you want that one person. You want to, like in the picture, hand it off nicely like a baton in a relay race or the Olympic torch. The third one is how. So the how is optional. If the person's been doing the job forever, you don't need to explain the how. That might be condescending. But if they need the how, for sure, make sure they have as much information as possible up front. So where's the list? Where's the resources? Where do they go for the information? What website? As much information up front that they'll need to get the job done well. The next one, very, very important, and a lot of people miss this. By when? You need a deadline. This is the one that brings the call to action. By when? And by when does not mean when you get around to it or when you get a chance. They might have 8 million other priorities. And if you're always saying when you get a chance, they don't feel like there's any call to action. Well, you know what? I was doing a whole bunch of stuff and so I didn't get to it. There was no deadline, so there was no big sense of urgency. Meanwhile, the leader thinks, I can never get anyone to do what I need them to do. The by when is one of the most important parts. Now, I have people say, well, but my team, this is a manager level person. I can't just dictate a time, or I know they have a whole bunch of other stuff on their plate. Well, so what you're going to do is you can negotiate with them. You can have them say like, you know what, I can't get it done by Thursday, but would Monday be okay? But so that you can negotiate, but you have a meeting of the minds and a dedicated deadline that you both know. All right. So there is wiggle room in the deadline, but the deadline's the deadline and it needs to be done by then. All right. The next step is the communication schedule. You're going to create a communication schedule back to you that's owned by the person you're delegating to up front. So what happens too often is a leader will delegate some work and then they'll go and check, hey, how's it going? How are you doing on that? Are you making good progress? Do you have any challenges? And what happens is the work ends up back. Or the employee isn't responding and starting the work until you've brought it up 5 or 6 times because they didn't really, you were kind of like the Olympic torch person if they ran alongside the person for, a couple miles instead of letting go. You really want to let go. And the whole goal is to fully delegate it. You're not using your own brain space to worry about it. You're fully offloading it onto the other person. And if you don't create this communication schedule back, you're going to be nervous that it's not getting done, especially if you haven't been a great delegator, and you're going to keep asking and it's going to land back in your lap somehow. So the communication schedule up front is like, let's say it's a Monday and the task is due by Thursday at 5. Tell them, hey, by the end of Tuesday, shoot me a quick email. Let me know how you're doing. And then on Wednesday, let's sit down really quick sometime in the afternoon. Get on my calendar. So see, they're coming to you. They're calling you. It's all on them, but you're creating the communication schedule ahead of time so that you can feel confident that they're making progress and coming to you. So you're not going to them to ask how it's going. Super, super important part of the process or the formula. All right. The next one is offer your support up front. Same thing. So you don't want to go to them and say, hey, do you need anything? Did you have any questions? No, you're telling them, if you have any challenges or need additional support from me, come to me and let me know. This does 2 things. One, it's another way of making sure that you're not going to them to ask about it, which lands it back in your lap. And then you have will have you telling me that if you want it done right, you need to do it yourself. And 2, it's reinforcing it needs to be done by Thursday at 5. So if there's anything standing in your way from hitting that deadline, because that's the drop dead deadline, then you need to let me know ahead of time so we can work around it and still hit that deadline. So it gives you another opportunity to reinforce the deadline is the deadline. Okay. All right, so those are the 2 main formulas: being intentional about the experiences that you're creating for your team so that they have the right beliefs that are aligned with the outcomes, so that their actions and behaviors are aligned with the outcomes and the results that you're working to make in your business. And then how do you get them to do specifically what you need? The 6 simple steps of great delegation. So the ultimate goal, though, is if you've got one of the cultures, one of the team types that's not working well, it's not aligned, a precise power culture is not going to help you meet your objectives. Or if you are meeting your objectives, you're working really, really, really hard, a lot harder than you need to get there. There's way more frustration and drama. So you need to move from precise power, perturbed and perfunctory, puzzled and perplexed, petrified and panicky, to proactive and propelled. That is the goal. You need your team to care about doing a good job. You need them taking the right actions that are aligned with your business objectives. You need to create an environment where employees will take actions consistent with your business goals. You're getting the right results. You're getting your team to do what you need does not require a unique talent. That's the good news. There absolutely is a system and a formula. And as I told you, I have been sharing this information with thousands of leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs, nonprofit executive directors for over 20 years. There is a system, there is a formula. So if you're sitting there feeling like, I don't know what to do, yes, I have one of those dysfunctional teams, but how do I change it? I've given you a couple of insights into how to do it. But there's more. So now, as I promised, I'm going to show you how you can take the immediately useful information that I've already shared with you into lasting transformation with training, tools, and support. Are you ready? It's the Defeat the Drama, Delight Your Customers, and Improve Your Bottom Line Bootcamp. A surefire 7-step system to get your team doing what you need, loving what they do, and directing focus where it should be. So this boot camp, if you choose to go forward, which I highly recommend that you do, it's going to give you everything you need step by step. I'm going to walk with you to create the team, that propelled and proactive team. In module 1, so there's 7 modules. In module 1, you're going to look at what do you sell, how should it feel, and why do you do what you do? So you're going to get attached and reignited with your own fuel, your passion. And you're going to look at your customer service experiences and really dive into what do I want it to feel like for my customers to do business with us? And where are the barriers and the challenges? You're going to get very specific. And every module is going to have an action guide to walk you through and a video to walk you through all this information. In module 2, generate aligned actions. So actions that are aligned with your business objectives. So this is all about an action guide that's going to give you additional insights to help you be very clear and intentional about the experiences you're creating for your team. So we talked a little bit about those steps. Module 2 is going to dive you deeper into how to engage your team, get them fueled for your mission. So you're excited, you love what you do, you have a big vision for what you want to make happen. How do you get your team aligned? They need to be the extension of you. You hire additional people to have more arms, legs, and heads and hearts to do the work that you're doing. But if they're a disorganized mess and it's chaos, they're not aligned with you. So how do you get them engaged and fired up and not just there for a paycheck? In module 3, we're going to talk about empowering your team to take targeted action with tenacity. So I'm sure that you've heard that you need to give your team autonomy, but there's so much more to it than just saying, go take action. We'll make sure that you have the right things in place to ignite your team to take what I call targeted, unbridled action. Wouldn't that be exciting? We'll work to help you define where they have freedom to act and where they must get permission. We'll also make sure you have the foundation in place to actually allow them to move. I'll share the pitfalls that stop employees in their tracks and help you identify whether your organization is struggling through them. You'll learn specific strategies to remove the barriers and challenges to autonomy. Because it isn't, like I said, just about saying, hey, go do it. You have to create a foundation for them to feel confident, to move, to take that unbridled action. We'll also talk about a simple process improvement formula. I'll teach it and it can be used in any organization of any size. So if you're not one of those huge organizations that needs a real specific process improvement, but every organization needs some amount, because remember, drama happens when our processes are falling apart. So I'm going to teach you a super simple formula that will ignite a team of solution seekers. That'll be part of their autonomy. In Module 4, we're going to identify and remove barriers to team productivity. So sometimes there are challenges that stop a team in their tracks. They become trip-ups to productivity and sometimes go unnoticed. You feel the frustration, but you can't figure out why things are going awry. The action guide for this one's going to take you step by step into identifying what those things are and helping you to remove them. In the meantime, get in action. Start asking your team what challenges, snafus, struggles they face over and over. Unless you actively engage in process improvement with your team and have already created a culture of solution seekers, I know you've got some hidden barriers. We'll also talk about how to avoid unintended outcomes. Look at the language that you use as a leader. This one is chock full of really important strategies. In Module 5, I can tell you this is one of the most popular, and everyone who participates in the boot camp is always, bring that one on. Because in the first 4 modules, I'll tell you that I talk about don't start correcting your team, but in Module 5, we talk about driving focused correction conversations. So many of my clients struggle with having good correction conversations. They feel fear and guilt around holding their team accountable. I can tell you, I recently shared this formula with over 800 leaders on a webinar. At the beginning of the webinar, 90% of them said that they were avoiding at least one correction conversation. Just 45 minutes later, after sharing the information that you're going to get in this Module 5, 45 minutes later, a whopping 98% of them said that they felt empowered to move forward immediately. They were literally going to get off the webinar and go have those correction conversations right then. So you don't want to miss that one. And then in number 6, I'm going to teach you how to hire well. Too many of my clients say, I can't terminate someone because I'll never find anyone better. And every time I say, yes, you can. So I'm going to share specific strategies that will improve your hiring decisions dramatically. We'll figure out the exact personalities that will provide the prescribed customer experiences. We'll work to define exactly the type of employee you need, and I'll give you the steps to take to determine whether a candidate has those qualities that will help your organization achieve success. Then, in Module 7, we're going to establish harmony and a productive culture. Once you have each employee functioning well, the final step is to make sure individual employees are working well, and also department to department you have good harmony. Do you have any competing objectives? How should employee handle disagreements? How should they communicate together? So much important information that it just brings it all together. So there is an overview of all the valuable information, learning strategies, and formulas that you will get with the 7 modules of this boot camp. In addition, you'll get a ton of valuable bonuses. So I want to go over those now. I'm going to actually have you go to the page where they're listed. So down below, below the video, you'll see a button. Just press that button and it'll open up a new window. Or here's the link right there. Now, when you press that button, my video is going to start playing on the new window. So just be ready to click that off so you can still hear me. So hopefully you've gotten that video turned off. Here's the website, and I want to just point out a couple of things that you can peruse later. Right after we're done here, but there are some testimonials from clients who've worked with me, and they kind of describe the transformation that I help them achieve through their team. And just a list of, is this you? You're overwhelmed, frustrated, or resentful. You work to exhaustion, but never make any progress. You're inundated with avoidable customer issues. Your employees fail to follow through no matter what. Does any of this sound familiar? What would it feel like to delight your customers, increase your profits, find your fuel, consistently integrate effective processes, delegate well, communicate with clarity, be heard and understood, eliminate frustration, defensiveness, resentment, and anger, and defeat the drama? So that is what I will help you do through this boot camp. Here's the list of the modules. I've already gone over those. And here are the bonuses that will arrive in your inbox as soon as you sign up. I want to go over these because there is a ton of information here. So first, you're going to get Crafting a Performance Management Cycle, a $497 value. So the protocol for how to do a great performance management process. You'll have access to me during exclusive office hours that are available to program participants only. That's at least a $1,500 value. So if you've got drama challenges going on or some struggles with implementing some of the information that you'll learn, you get access to me to answer your questions personally. In addition, you're going to get the Clarifying Conversations Master the Art of Fact-Based Living document. This has been very popular with all of my clients. Most of them end up sharing it with their entire teams and end up telling me that it's transformed their communication. It includes a list of 50 different ways to ignite a clarifying conversation. You're also going to get the audio of a behavioral-based interviewing teach. So you're going to learn the specifics about how to do great interviews. A lot of my clients, like I said, talk about, I can't fire someone because I don't know how to hire someone any better. And this will start getting you on the right track. In addition, you're going to get a huge list of customer service behaviors and interview questions. So categorized by behaviors that you're going to want to exhibit, that you're going to want inside of your team, and the behavioral-based interviewing questions to use during your interview process. Tons of value there, $397 value. And to top it all off, a sample discipline policy and employee forms. Like I said, I want to arm you with everything you need to just move solidly through this information. And sometimes when I start working with clients, they don't have a good discipline process. So I want to make sure that you have a good progressive discipline process and all the forms that go with it. A performance improvement plan that's not necessarily part of a discipline process, but in your discipline forms and just all the stuff you'll need. So great high value bonuses that will come as soon as you join. Perhaps you're thinking, I would love to move forward with this, but I'm too busy. I just have too much on my plate. Well, I want to ask you, how long do you want to stay this busy? My clients who have followed this formula have captured more time. I want to ask you, if your team were functioning better, would they be more productive? If they were more productive, would you have more time to do your own job? What would happen with your work-life balance? I've seen it over and over. I shared a few stories where leaders I worked with captured more time with their families or more time for their life, and their business was more productive, more profitable. Isn't it time for an investment of time in yourself? Or maybe you're thinking, my business is unique for us. Some of my clients have made this same statement. They thought that there was something unique about their industry, the size of their company, the product they sold, the way that they did business that made the drama, the chaos, the confusion, the inefficiency a requirement. And every one of them who followed this formula found that this was not the case. Every one of them reaped the benefits of doing what they must to transform their teams. They captured time, had better life balance, enjoyed their work again, and had increased profits and productivity. Maybe you're saying, I'm not empowered to enact, what if I'm not empowered to enact change for the entire organization? I gave you that example of, it would be awesome if you could change the whole organization, but you can have an impact in your own department. And while that's not the best case scenario, it still works great. And like I said, in that large sales organization where I worked with just one of their top producers in his team, the rest of the organization started saying, I want some of that. They were noticing how much better they were performing. And they said, you know what? How are you doing that? I want the same. So you might end up being a role model for the rest of the organization. They'll want to know, how are you doing that? Tell me, share with me. Kirsten, what if some of my employees won't change? If this is your question, I will tell you, some of them might not. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There are times when my clients go through this process and some employees end up self-selecting out, or some are exited from the organization. But you know what? I would tell you not to worry about that right now, because that module 5 and all the modules leading up to it are going to have you looking at your business in a new way and looking at your employees in a new way. You're going to feel more empowered. And that module 5 is going to help you remove the fear and the guilt that you have around, oh no, what if they don't do what I need them to do? I know that they need this job. And you're going to think about things differently. So I'd ask you not to worry about that one, because the tools, the strategies I'm going to share through the modules are going to remove that fear for you. Kirsten, how exactly are you going to help me to gain clarity, generate actions, align with business objectives, empower my team to take targeted action with tenacity, identify and remove barriers to team productivity, drive focused employee correction conversations, hire well, and establish harmony and productivity? It's the Defeat the Drama, Delight Your Customers, and Improve Your Bottom Line Bootcamp. So what all will you get with this bootcamp? I already showed you the bonuses. You're also going to get 7 modules available to you, convenient access from a membership site. You'll be able to access those videos and action guides on demand when you want them, when you're ready. Now, you're going to want to keep moving through them, because you're going to want to keep up to date and ready when you have your office calls with me. But there's video learning, motivation and action, 24/7 access, tools to walk you through implementation. You're going to get the exclusive office hours with me. You'll have dates and times to choose from that are reserved for bootcamp participants. And you'll get your questions answered personally. And then all those bonuses that I mentioned that will provide you with the tools you need. I want you to have everything that you need with this bootcamp. That's why I'm providing you with a sample discipline form. If you don't have one already, it's hard to hold your team accountable. You need to be able to set the expectations and tell them what's going to happen if they don't follow through. And so what's the cost? I have a fast action savings for the first 50 people will get this special price. Why am I doing this? Because I want to work with people who are ready for real change. I always say I'm a transformational coach. I'm a transformational speaker. I want to help people impact their lives and their work positively. And so if you're ready to take action now, I want to work with you. If you're not sure and you're waffling and you want to sit on the fence, you might not be ready, and that's okay. But I want to work with the people. I want to invest my time and my high energy to people who are really ready for that change. The pain of the circumstance of their business, the drama that you're experiencing, if you're ready to be done with all that, then you're ready to take action. So you're going to pay $497 instead of $797 by taking action now. And as soon as you sign up, you're going to get the pre-work delivered to you immediately. You'll be able to start right away, even before the boot camp starts. You're going to get pre-work that talks about motivation and some great stuff. It's going to start getting you fired up for the next 7 modules. And if the price is still up, that price is still available, you're one of the first 50. So is it time for you to take an investment in yourself? This is such a small amount to take. I want to ask you, what is it costing you in stress and overwhelm and resentment and resignation to have a team that's not aligned with your business goals? What does it cost you when you're dealing with so many customer service issues that shouldn't be happening? What's happening with your work-life balance, and how much are you enjoying your life overall? Isn't $497 a small price to pay to investing in a business that's aligned and making your vision happen? What would it feel like to have a team that's fully aligned and doing the work that you need them to do? I tell you, it is time to make the investment in you, in your business, in your employees who want to be on this mission with you. You have important work to do. So let's get your team aligned. Here's the link again, and I look forward to working with you soon. Let's defeat some drama with this boot camp and take this next steps through these 7 modules. Let's walk you through aligning your team and making it happen. So until I see you in the boot camp, make it a great day.